Good afternoon to all our listeners out there. I'm Jason Palmatary.
And I'm Andrew Beaton, and welcome to the first edition of the Chronicle Sports Weekly Basketball Podcast, where we'll bring you up to date with all the news that are concerning Duke basketball this week, starting off in our first edition with a conversation about Friday and Saturday's games against Belmont and Presbyterian.
Yeah, Andrew, the thing that really interests me about this is it's unusual to see two games tip off within 24 hours of each other. Friday night, the game tips at 9 o'clock, and then Saturday they'll start playing again at 4:30. I can't help but wonder if the coaching staff thought that this might be valuable preparation for the ACC tournament or postseason play later in the year. It kind of has that feeling, Friday night game at Greensboro Coliseum, follow that up with a Saturday afternoon game in the next round.
Yeah, I've got to agree with you there, especially with such a young team on this year's roster. It's an early test of their legs and see how they can react under those types of conditions. Against two opponents that should be relatively easy, but given that these games are so close together, back-to-back within 24 hours of each other, these games will be much more difficult than they appear.
Yeah, the other thing that's actually kind of funny to look at, I wonder if the athletic department had something to do with these two games too. I kind of wonder if they wanted to get two wins out of the way to line up that milestone victory for Coach K, the 903rd victory to break the all-time win record in Division I. Against Michigan State in the Garden, a little bit better ambiance than, let's say, a non-conference opponent at Cameron.
Yeah, you have to agree about that. And not only will these games provide the opportunity for them to win 903 there, but it'll also give the team a chance to try and figure out its rotation against two opponents in two games back-to-back in a short span. Because even as we saw in the exhibition games early in the season, this team doesn't really have its rotation quite figured out yet.
No, I think it's really up in the air, and it's really up in the air in both areas, in the backcourt and the front court. I think the front court is a little bit more stable. We know we can expect to see a lot of the Plumleys up front and Ryan Kelly, and probably a little bit of Josh Hairston. And then in the backcourt, I think there are a lot more question marks. Right now, it looks like the coaching staff is going to rely heavily on Seth Curry, both as a primary ball handler and a scorer, and that's going to be a lot for him. Seth has a very slight frame, so I'm interested to see how he's going to be able to hold up over the course of a 30-plus game season, especially once we get into conference play. So these early season games are a great opportunity for some of the other young guards to step up and show what kind of contributions they can make. I think ideally we'd see some Quinn Cook, we'd see some Tyler Thornton on the ball, push Curry off the ball, give him a chance to kind of get his legs and also kind of fill that primary score role that we kind of saw him grow into last year. The game that really comes to mind for me is the Carolina game at home. It'll also be interesting to see, how Austin Rivers starts this season off. How important do you think these first few games are for him? I feel like confidence is going to be a big issue there with the talented young freshman.
I completely agree, and how well Seth Curry involves him in the offense is going to be a major factor because Austin is a slasher and a shooter, and he has the tendency, if he's got the ball, he's looking to score with it, and how well he can move the ball and fit into this offense will be a big early season test, especially when Seth Curry is off the court even. Because you can expect Coach Krzyzewski to have early season trust in Tyler Thornton, who's coming back as a sophomore and got important minutes last season. But players such as Quinn Cook, who have probably more potential, may not have that early season trust and might need to prove themselves in the early minutes they get right now.
Yeah, Andre Dawkins is a guy, he struggled a little bit seemingly in the preseason. He didn't really find his stroke in either of the exhibition games. Probably going to see a fair amount of time at the three, but if he doesn't show that his game's evolved kind of past just being the catch-and-shoot player that we've seen him be for the first 2 years, his minutes may take a dive this year. And I know Kay likes the freshman Alex Murphy a lot. I'm not sure exactly what he's known for, his specific skills are, but it seems like he kind of brings a little bit of everything when he's on the court and really possesses a high basketball IQ.
You have to agree with you there. Some people say he, at least in terms of his skill set, is reminiscent of Kyle Singler in that he has the size to work inside, but is also an athletic body who can rebound and shoot.
Yeah, I've heard Mike Dunleavy too. I mean, I don't think he's refined any of his skills at this point to the level of Singler or Dunleavy, but I think the potential is there, and it seems like he's ready to contribute right now too with his well-rounded game.
And in the front court, you also have to look at how Mason and Miles Plumlee will deal with their first tests against opponents that actually have size in the front court, because Bellarmine, Shaw, they did not have the type of size to really give them a chance. You saw Mason Plumlee did not miss a field goal in those those first 2 exhibition games, and you just have to attribute to the fact that they were running out guys trying to guard him who are 6'6".
Yeah, from a size standpoint, they kind of looked like a high school team. But I don't want to be too pushy with that line, given that both games were pretty tight at half. And another interesting thing, there is no guarantee that K is going to be going for his 903rd victory at the Garden against Michigan State. This Belmont team is really tough. I'm sure fresh in a lot of Duke fans' minds is the game in the NCAA tournament 5 years ago, the 2 versus 15 seed matchup. It was 71-70. Duke did pull it out, but it took a Gerald Henderson coast-to-coast layup in the game's waning seconds. So, this is a Belmont team that has a coach with 25 years experience now. He's won close to 65% of his games during that span. A very respected coach. It's a team that's gone to the NCAA tournament as the Atlantic Suns automatic qualifier for the last 6 years. A lot of guys back. Granted, no guys from the team that hung with Duke 5 years ago, but still, the coach was there. It's got to be it's got to be instilled into these guys' mind that, yeah, they can play with Duke. Granted, it's going to be tough on the road, but it's certainly not a contest that can be taken easily. And I think the key for Duke is trying to establish that double-digit lead in the first half and just kind of squash any hopes that Belmont may have that they can hang with the Blue Devils in Cameron.
And what has to be concerning is that first half lead is so important for the Blue Devils, but that's something they failed to do in those exhibition games when they came out of the gate slowly with lots of substitutions, poor execution, and sloppy passing play on offense. And that's not the type of thing that they can do against a Belmont team, because you can guarantee that Rick Byrd is coming out there and giving his team a speech about how they were 15 seconds away from upsetting a number 2 seed in the NCAA tournament.
No, absolutely, Andrew. And I think Saturday's game should be a little easier. Presbyterian, we've seen them in Cameron before. It wasn't really competitive. I don't expect that one to be close, but with an inexperienced Duke team, it's just, you don't want to take anything for granted at this point in the season. So we're very interested to see how these first 2 games will play out, as I'm sure you guys are too. And we look forward to seeing you guys next week and discussing the weekend's action.
Thanks for stopping by with the Chronicle.